And now live goes to the extreme.
God damn it, Vale, you idiot, you dickhead, you sack of shit, you big stinky. Why did you play the Crew 2 beta and decide, hey, this is going to be a complete game at launch? This will definitely be worth slapping down 100 fresh ones for. I walked right into Ubisoft's little trap. Lure them in with the promise of a bajillion types of cars on a massive map based on the entirety of the United States. Then when the angry mob comes running, hide around the corner and tell them the rest of the content is coming soon, we swear. The Crew 2 is the most torn I've been on a racing game in a very, very long time. On one hand, the moment-to-moment gameplay is generally fun and exciting, but on the other hand, we have about as much content here as the amount of content I've uploaded to YouTube in the past 3 months. Yep, fucking nothing. I'm not exaggerating when I say I wanted to return this. I haven't wanted to return a game in a long time. If you haven't watched the video I did on the Crew 2's private beta, I'll sum it up for you lazy bastards. The Crew 2 is the sequel to wannabe MMO The Crew, which released in 2014 and was met with a mixed reception, due to wonky handling, a forgettable and unnecessary narrative, and its always online requirements. But I still had a lot of fun with it. Once I reached the end game and had cars out the wazoo, it was a blast, tackling the game's longer races and trying my hand at PvP. Still, I really yearned for a sequel to capitalize on the Crew's squandered potential. The beta for the Crew 2 seemed to answer a lot of my issues with the original. The crappy cop drama was gone, even though it was replaced with cutscenes that seemed to be trying too hard to capitalize on modern culture, even though they didn't fully understand it themselves. There were way more cars as well as more racing disciplines, which now feature boats and planes alongside the already existing cars, bikes, and monster trucks. And the track design seemed halfway imaginative this time around, as well as areas of the map seeming distinct and not blending together. Handling was greatly improved. No longer did cars slide around like it was the world's biggest ice level. Instead, handling is responsive and snappy. The physics also weren't completely botched, although cars seem to drop to the ground a little too quickly here, but I'll take it over whatever the fuck happened in the original. Yeesh. And it seemed to actually have content this time around. The main campaign of the Crew was spread across a few dozen races and missions, all loosely tied together by Troy Baker wearing glasses and being an undercover cop / wanting revenge for his dead brother or friend or whatever. Does anyone actually remember what happened in that game? No? But yeah, in the Crew 2, you're free to start with any of the game's 4 main disciplines: street racing, off-road, freestyle, and pro racing, which each split off into a further 3 or 4 smaller disciplines. Off-road has dirt bikes, rallycross, and rally raid. Pro racing has power boats, touring cars, open wheel racing, and plane racing. Freestyle has aerobatics, small boat racing, and monster trucks. And street racing has, well, street race, drift, drag, and longer hypercar races. Ivory Tower, the developers, were quick to point out that you could choose any of these 4 main disciplines and just work at that one to reach the end of the game, leading silly old me to believe that they managed to actually fill the game with a decent amount of races. Nope. Before I unload all my disappointment on all you guys, I want to preface my rambling with this. In almost all cases, I advocate quality over quantity in video games. Shorter, streamlined video games are, to me, much more enjoyable. There's no gaps and they're constantly exciting and rewarding to play. But when it comes to racing games, while I expect some levels of quality, I also expect decent and equal levels of quantity. Racing games are the kind of games I like to unwind with, much like how some people may play Euro Truck Simulator or House Flipper. So having a lot of content certainly helps in that scenario. On the other hand, shorter racing games like Need for Speed Underground keep the content and rewards coming at a brisk pace. So while it may be over before you know it, you've experienced all the game has to offer and are likely left satisfied. The Crew 2 is not the former, because it only has around 120 races, nor is it the latter, because the way the economy is handled, it expects you to keep grinding the same events ad nauseum. It somehow manages to be neither. This might sound a bit confusing, but let me explain. I wanted to save up for a Ford Focus for the Rallycross events. It was around 440,000, so I had to attempt to save up quite a lot of money while doing other events in other disciplines. By the time I had enough money, I went ahead and purchased it, ready to tackle the many races that I assumed the game had set up for me. 6 races. I saved up over 400 grand for a car that can only participate in 6 fucking races. This isn't just the rallycross discipline either. How many drift events are there? 8. How many hypercar events are there? 4. 4 whole races for a car you spend around $1 million on. And how much money do you get from a race? Between 15 and 20 grand. There are very few races that are worth anything more than that. So this introduces a problem. When you come across a new event type, you're likely forced into buying an affordable car instead of the one you truly want. But then, by the time you've saved up the money for the car you really want, you've either already finished or are close to finishing all the events in the series. There's no point going for that car you want anymore because there's nowhere to use it. To be fair, there are hard versions of each race, so you could potentially buy the vehicle you want and use them in that. But the performance gap between easy and hard races is just big enough that you're gonna have to keep grinding on previous races until you've acquired good enough parts through the game's entirely superfluous loot system that increases your car's performance level by the tiniest of increments after every race. And by the time you've decked out your car with rare parts, what's even the point of tackling the races on hard? Nothing's changing except how cheap the rubber banding is on the AI, from bullshit to 20 copies of the Order 1886 in the bargain bin. Or you could bypass all that entirely and buy the car you want, no hassle. Come here. Let me let you in on something here. Come on, a little closer. Yeah, like that. That's good. Yep. You want some crew bucks? All you need is your full name, credit card number, the 3-digit code on the back of your card, and for you to pull your pants down and park your anus, slut! I can't stand it. I can't stand that this potentially crazy fun arcade racer is completely let down by the fact that its content is spread too thin, and its economy is gross. The Crew 2 has around 120 races, I think, which sounds acceptable, but it's divided into too many portions for any of it to feel satisfying. Forza Horizon 3 manages to feel like less of a slog, and it demands that you finish around 300 races to beat the game. It sucks because the racing itself is a lot of fun. Like I said earlier, cars handle way better than they used to, and track design is surprisingly inventive. Thanks to a good mix of high-speed open roads and twisty mountain trails, as well as jumps that may land you on top of skyscrapers and such. This extends to boats and planes as well, which handle much better than I expected and definitely do not feel like an afterthought. Boats have to account for waves created by opponents as well as nature itself, while the smaller boats used in jet sprint events are enormously fun for something that can barely top 100 kilometers an hour, thanks in part to the tight, challenging courses you have to navigate. And planes are pretty easy to handle as well, while pulling off various maneuvers is satisfying as all hell. Also, as I wrongfully criticized in the beta review, there is an angle indicator. Don't know how I missed that one. Now, if you all could stop tweeting at me about it, that'd be great. It also looks like it belongs in the current generation this time around too. I mean, almost. Some buildings look like they're made out of cardboard, and there is inexcusably bad pop-in, alongside a few cities such as Detroit just looking really bad for some reason. But car models, and in particular the water, all look fantastic. Fast traveling from one side of the map to the other is impressively quick, as is the sense of scope the game gives off when zooming out for the first time. And it even has one of the best implementations of a photo mode, which keeps track of your actions during the past 10 minutes and allows you to rewind at any point and take a shot, as well as record video. It's really cool. But for everything I like about the Crew 2, I can find something else that bugs me, quite easily. Gone are the collectibles, as well as any reason to explore the map unless you want to complete the various slaloms, speed traps and ring challenges dotted around the place. Menus take way too long to open and are occasionally very unresponsive. The GPS once asked me to drive my car through the ocean surrounding Los Angeles to reach my destination, so yeah, the navigation system is hilariously broken. The marketing campaign for the game put the fast fave feature at the forefront, you know, that thing where you can switch between car, boat and plane with a click of the right stick, but it's unfortunately underutilized, only being used in a handful of events you unlock after leveling up. Oh, and get this, PvP? Almost the entire fucking point of going through the grind in the first place? It's not here. It was present at launch in the first game, but it's nowhere to be seen this time around. Oh, but don't worry, it's coming later. As in, December later. The player base is destined to die off before then. I've got no idea how rushed this game was, but this is just flat out unacceptable. To give credit where it's due, while there is a season pass, you can actually nab all the cars from that without it. The only thing the season pass does is give them to you early, and I'm guessing for free. All content updates will also be free, and the devs have promised more content down the line, with the upcoming Gator Rush slated for September, and further content updates planned to release every 3 months. In a way, this is admirable, but in another way, that comes off as a little strange. The Crew 2 was already delayed by several months, and yet it still feels unfinished in many ways, most notably the progression system, where cars are too expensive and there aren't enough events to make good use of them. So, do I recommend buying the Crew 2 as it is? No. Some of my criticisms may come off as pedantic to you, and you may enjoy the game more than I do, of course seeing as the core gameplay itself is rather enjoyable. But right now, there just isn't enough here to justify buying it for full price. It's like buying a loaf of bread, but they're sold out of ham and cheese. The fuck's the point of buying the bread at that point? However, as was the case with its predecessor, the Crew 2 will likely become a more fleshed out experience a year from now, and by that point it could very well be worth it. I may return to review it in its updated state a year from now to see if it can change my mind, but for now, stick with Forza Horizon 3. Or wait for Horizon 4. That looks sick. Did you know you can make your own tracks in that? It's already my favorite game of all time and it hasn't even come out yet. And you can dab too. Can you dab in the Crew 2? Didn't think so. I've got a big nice list of good boys and girls here, let's have a look. Thank you to Mitchell Rees, Chatter Estop, Sebastian Orbe, The Dervinator, Camacho Gaming, Nathaniel Forrest, Cooper James Price, Pierre Critem, I still don't know your name, sorry buddy, Travis Miranda, Thomas Hart, Lazaro Dave, Dalek Boy, The Ruby Red Rose, Arse in one hand, Jack in the other, Tabriz Sadiq, Laurent Lacroix, again, another name I still can't work out, and Nation McAltyre. To all these lovely boys and girls, thank you for supporting me on Patreon, even though I didn't upload for like 3 months.